Hi everybody, I'm Victor Montsevice with Line 6, and today we're hanging out at Sam Ash to go over everything about the Firehawk 1500 with you guys. So the Firehawk 1500, sitting to my right, is a 1500 watt, incredibly loud, incredibly powerful stage amplifier. When we say stage amplifier, it's different from your normal traditional guitar amp. You guys might have noticed the 1500 watts is quite different than what we're used to for guitar power anyway. And the idea being that it is a traditional guitar speaker set in the middle of the box, surrounded by a 1500 six-way speaker system, essentially a PA built into the same box. So we have massive amounts of versatility as far as DSP and guitar processing on board, over 200 different amplifiers, cabinet, and effect models. But then when we add in that 1500 watt PA, it even further increases its versatility. So if you're an acoustic player looking for a back line, this will work. And because it's essentially a PA, you get all that extra frequency response that you're used to. If you're a bass player or a keyboard player, you can also feel free to plug in and have this incredibly loud, super versatile, powerful source of volume on stage. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the box itself. I'd mentioned before that it's a 1500 watt six-way speaker system, and the way that's sort of divvied up is your guitar tones are handled mainly by the 12-inch guitar driver here in the center. All of your effects are handled in a wet, dry, wet configuration split up amongst the PA. So all of your reverbs, delays, choruses, all that stuff is handled so you get a wide dispersion and a stereo image coming from a single box. Furthermore, that 1500 watt PA system has uses if you want to bring in other sources, so different instruments, other mixers. You can use this essentially as a standalone PA. So in the back, as far as I/O, we have our stereo input for monitor in, which is combi jacks usable with XLR or quarter-inch, and a level control for that. We also have a stereo effects loop, so if you feel like incorporating other outside stomp boxes or other gear, you can add that into the Firehawk Effects 1500. Next up we have our outputs, so balanced XLR as well as quarter-inch out. We have MIDI in and out. We also have connections for Variacs, so if you're using the Variacs instruments along with the Firehawk 1500, you get a little collaboration out of those two. Simply switching presets on your floorboard will change the presets not only for the Firehawk, all that DSP can be completely rearranged, but it'll also tell your Variacs guitar what instrument, which tuning you'd like to assign it. And lastly, we have connection for our FBV floor controller, which I've got sitting in front of me down here. It happens to be our new FBV3, and if you notice, it's got a little bit of a facelift, so we've added color-coded rings to all of the stomp box effects, so you can just at a glance tell exactly what you're turning on and off inside of a preset. Follows Line 6's color scheme of oranges are reverbs, greens are delays, blues are modulation effects, yellows are gain-based effects. So it's a lot easier to kind of see on stage. So let's talk a little bit now about the sounds on the Firehawk 1500. The DSP is the same as our Firehawk Effects floorboard unit, which technically speaking is the largest collection of amp models, effects, and cabinets that we've ever put into one unit. So it's drawing from all of our stuff from the Amplify series, our classic sounds. In addition to that, we've added in HD amp models, HD reverbs, and HD overdrives from the Pod HD 500X. So over 200 amps, cabinets, and effects, all built into the same box. As far as controlling it, on the top of the amp itself, we have our traditional controls, so what you'd expect to see on an amp, so drive, EQ, reverb level, and overall volume. But you definitely get more out of the Firehawk 1500 if you pair it with a smart device, either iOS or Android, and control it remotely using our graphic-based editing system found in the Firehawk Remote app. So now we'll check out a couple different sounds coming from the Firehawk 1500, and I'm going to start with something a little lower gain, and you'll see me pressing a few buttons down here on the floorboard control. I'm just going to bring in different effects as I'm playing so you guys can kind of hear what's going on there. And I'm going to start with something slightly lower in gain, and to me this is what's kind of cool about the 1500 watts that we have going on inside the box, where if I decide to change volume, it's not going to change my tone the way it might with a traditional amp. So I set up my sound, I have all my saturation and gain levels set, I change the volume, my tone stays intact, and it's just giving me usable headroom. So. Now, just by clicking a button, if I look down at the floorboard, I know I click a green button, I'm going to add some sort of delay effect. I know I click a yellow button now, I know I'm adding some sort of gain-based effect, so. So, now let's try something with a little more gain. And what's cool again about having 1500 watts of headroom on an amplifier means that if I want to play something super massive, super heavy sounding, and super aggressive, I don't necessarily have to get really loud with it. So I can play modern metal sounds at bedroom appropriate levels. If I add an overdrive to an already overdriven amp, it's going to force things to tighten up and compress a little more. So thank you guys for watching, and be sure to check out the Firehawk effects and Firehawk 1500 at Sam Ash.